People become unhealed healers because they attempt to heal without being healed themselves. If they were, they would understand that while the problem is manifest in the body, that is not where healing is needed. Thus does unconscious guilt fester in their decision-making mind, leading to its expression in forms that veil the hate of separation and specialness that denies the underlying unity of God's Son. In the Teacher's Manual, Jesus discusses the unhealed healer in the form of one who cannot accept the mind's healing because of the body's symptoms. One of the most difficult temptations to recognize is that to doubt a healing because of the appearance of continuing symptoms is a mistake in the form of lack of trust. As such, it is an attack. Usually it seems to be just the opposite. It does appear unreasonable at first to be told that continued concern is attack. It is all the appearances of love, yet love without trust is impossible, and doubt and trust cannot coexist. And hate must be the opposite of love, regardless of the form it takes. Doubt not the gift, and it is impossible to doubt its result. This is the certainty that gives God's teachers the power to be miracle workers, for they have put their trust in Him. The above paragraph helps us to understand that in order to be a true healer or miracle worker, one must trust that the perceived bodily problem is a projected form of the mind's projected guilt. Without such awareness, the otherwise kind intervention conceals the ego's hate that perpetuates its thought system of guilt, attack, and death, making true healing impossible, the ego's hidden goal. Two forms of unhealed healers will now be described, the only place in A Course in Miracles where specific examples are used. These forms, the theologian and psychotherapist, are two among countless others, all reflecting a person's desire to be helpful without recognizing that the mind is the locus of the problem and its healing. The ego's plan for forgiveness is far more widely used than God's. This is because it is undertaken by unhealed healers and is therefore of the ego. Another way of understanding why the ego's plan is far more widely used than God's is that practically no one wants to see that the problem is in the mind, which would allow them to be healed. Instead, people want the symptom removed so their individual selves will be kept intact. They may have the illusion of being happy or free from stress and suffering, but the mind's decision for the ego is never addressed, as it is in the Holy Spirit's plan. Let us consider the unhealed healer more carefully now. By definition, he is trying to give what he has not received. If an unhealed healer is a theologian, for example, he may begin with the premise, "I am a miserable sinner and so are you." If he is a psychotherapist, he is more likely to start with the equally incredible belief that attack is real for both himself and the patient, but that it does not matter for either of them. Unhealed healers try to give healing when they themselves have not received it, which means they have not accepted it for themselves. As we have repeatedly seen, healing is only of the mind because that is where sickness is, the mind's decision for guilt. Indeed, there is no body to be sick. Unhealed healers have not accepted healing because they are terrified of the mind and its power. How then could they possibly help others see the mind as the source of the problem, let alone the solution? Specifically, the theologian, read Christian theologian, sees sin as real and localized in the world, body, and self, a basic tenet of the biblical religions. Then, as will be described presently, a distant light, the light of God, descends into the darkened world of sin to save sinners. Sin is made real in the world, awaiting heaven's light, i.e., Jesus, to shine upon it, thereby undoing it in an act of expiation that is the meaning of Christian salvation. The problem with this as a plan, however, is that sin does not exist in the body or in the individuality. It does not exist at all. It is a made-up concept dreamt by the ego as a ploy to keep us in a perpetual state of separation as a body, with its cause attributed to anything, including our sinful nature as descendants of Adam, but never to our minds. Theologians are seen here as unhealed healers because they perceive the reality of sin as existing in the body outside the mind's decision maker, yet capable of being magically undone by the light of heaven entering the world. All the while, the true source of sin, the mind's decision, is kept hidden and protected from true salvation. The psychotherapist, read psychoanalytically oriented therapists who deal with the past, is a more contemporary form of the ego's plan for forgiveness. To be sure, there are other forms of therapy that do not deal with the past, but they end up making the same mistake of establishing the patient's symptoms as real. Therapists see the problem not as sin, but a neurosis having real causes buried in the past, which is judged against or attacked. These unhealed healers therefore attempt to shine the light of their insightful truth into the darkness of the neuroses, thereby bringing it to the light and undoing it. This would work if the neuroses were seen to reside in the mind's power to choose, but it is not. For example, the two most brilliant psychologists of the 20th century, Freud and Jung, did not know about a mind. The psyche to them was ultimately understood to be an aspect of the body or brain, not the mind, as A Course in Miracles defines it.